And welcome to the Howard Eskin Show as we're live on Wednesday evening. There's a lot. We're going to do a lot tonight. I'm going to have some fun. Well, I always have fun in some people's eyes, not have fun in other people's eyes. But hey, that's just me. You know, I can't change who I am, and I'm not going to change who I am. And all the people that around the Philadelphia area that say hello to me, they always tell me, don't change. I didn't always like what you had to say, but don't change it. I'm not going to do that. And the Howard Eskin Show, again, and it will be sponsored and presented by, from here until eternity, I hope, but here for quite a while, Stillwell Financial Advisors. Yep, Stillwell Financial Advisors. Any wealth that you want to invest, Jeff Stillwell, and I'm telling you, he's the guy. Trust me on this. He's the guy, that person that really knows his stuff on a lot of things. Just a regular guy. He's just like you and me. He will understand you. You will understand him. I've gained a lot of knowledge from him, and you will as well. But the most important thing, he's going to do a great job if you want to invest your wealth, and you'll get to know him and you will be impressed. Here's the number, 732-343-0813. That's 732-343-0813. Jeff Stillwell. And there's a lot of things that I want to talk about tonight. And our guest tonight will be, as you saw, Andrea Kremer, who sometimes people don't like the word pioneer because it makes you sound old. No, we're older, but we've established a lot. I've done the same thing. Well, you're a pioneer in sports talk radio and in broadcasting. No, that's great. She's a pioneer and she's accomplished so much, and we're going to talk to her tonight. And it all started, she's a Philadelphia person, born and raised, smart person. She's above my level. She's a Penn grad. But regardless, we're going to talk to her later. But the first thing that I want to do, I want to tell you, I'm going to tell you about Shedeur Sanders and my opinion of Shedeur Sanders. I use the word hotshot. It's a simple word. It's maybe out of vogue. You got to be humble. The NFL is not, you just don't walk in like the NBA. You don't just walk in like sometimes you do in baseball. You don't just walk in and say, oh, I'm here and I'm who I am and I'm a star. There's an audio clip here and it kind of turns me off. And I don't know if it turns other people off. Shedeur Sanders has got to be humble. And that's why he didn't go until the 5th round. First of all, he's not the second best quarterback in the draft. And he's not close to Cam Ward. And if he didn't have that last name, nobody would even say 5 things about him, say 2 things about him. He would be a quarterback that had a good college career. I don't know if it was great because there's some physical skills that he doesn't have. But listen to this soundbite. And you don't tell me that you're not a little turned off by this. Go ahead.
What's up, Buff fans? It's legendary Shedeur Sanders here. Thankful for the opportunity. I'm thankful for everything leading up to this point. Now the main thing is I'm just praying, all my receivers, Shiloh, and the rest of my teammates get drafted. But I'm ready to lead this franchise on the big things. Let's do it.
Okay. So here's the deal. This was before the draft. Legendary Shedeur Sanders, I guess is the proper pronunciation. Legendary. Well, why is he legendary? What legend has he created if his father wasn't Deion Sanders? He's a good quarterback. I don't know that you would call him elite. He had good numbers. He played at the University of Colorado. Come on now. But that soundbite just turned me off when I heard it. There's some other things he said. And in his interviews with the teams, he did not come off very well actually came off very poorly because he dictated too much of what he needed and not what the team needed. And it turns off a team. Teams don't want to get involved in that. And it's going to be a circus. Cleveland drafted a quarterback in the 3rd round and they took him in the 5th round. Now, one of those guys won't be on the team and one of those players will probably be traded before the season starts. So Cleveland took a shot. I saw there was a report, and remember, social media is not social and it's not media, where the Eagles could have taken him if in fact he slid to 145, and I don't think that's the case. All right. Also on the show tonight, we're going to give away another pair of Oakley sunglasses, and we did it. We have a winner from the last time, but let me tell you how you can win the Oakley sunglasses. Listen carefully to the conversation I have on tonight's show, and it will be with Andrea Kremer. At the end of the show, I'll ask a question of something that was said in the conversation. Email your answer through the contact page at howardeskin.com. The winner will be randomly selected from all the correct entries, and emails must be received by Friday before we do the show on Saturday. The winner of the Oakley sunglasses will be announced on the Howard Eskin Show Saturday, May 3rd at 8 a.m. And our winner this week of the Oakley sunglasses for tonight's show is Fred Johnson. Yeah, there you go, Fred. That's a very expensive pair of sunglasses you got there. Fred's name was chosen from among the many qualified entries who knew the answer to last Saturday's question. How many times did Jeremiah Trotter say that he has watched the 2005 Super Bowl that he played in and the Eagles lost to the Patriots? How many times? The answer was 0. He did not watch it after that game at all. The answer was 0. And congratulations, Fred. You win the sunglasses. We'll have another winner tonight, and I'll mention what the question is before the show's over, and you'll have a chance to qualify for the sunglasses. But now I also want to tell you about our proud partners, sponsors. And the first one, there you go. Cut the cord with Jason, Piazza Property Pros, and Audi of Westchester. And Piazza Property Pros, I actually just talked to them today. I'm going to get some landscaping done, some things done around the house. They've already helped me with my pool. Piazza Property Pros, they have experts. They'll come directly to you. If you want a new in-ground pool, they got you covered. Renovation of your pool, they got you covered. Piazza Property Pros, over 25 years of experience. They specialize in turning your vision into a reality with top-notch craftsmanship, unmatched customer service. The work is done by, it's their people. They don't subcontract. It's their people. And I think that's really important. You can trust Piazza Property Pros. Exceptional results on time and within your budget. And now that the weather's good, don't wait, because now you're going to have to wait to get whatever you have done because people are doing it when the weather gets nice. Oh, I got to get a pool. I got to get landscaping. Get in touch with them now. 610-566-2608, 610-566-2608, or visit piazzaoutdoor.com, Piazza Property Pros. Also, you want a beautiful, nice car to drive. No tariffs. You can experience luxury at Audi Westchester in their all-new facility. State-of-the-art equipment. Great people, and I got to emphasize that, and I do it all the time. Audi Westchester's goal is to make buying or leasing a new Audi as simple as possible with pressure-free sales environment. Since Audi Westchester is part of the mainline automotive group, you'll have access to the largest selection of new and pre-owned Audi vehicles in the tri-state area. Stop by Audi of Westchester. They're located 1421 Wilmington Pike, or check them out, AudiWestchester.com. That's AudiWestchester.com. And let me tell you, there are sales on the EQ5, which is the Q5 hybrid, and sales on the A5 over at Audi of Westchester. And you want to save hundreds of dollars on your cable. Now, who doesn't? You know, you get your cable and you say, did they raise the price again? Yes, they did. but you can cut the cord with Jason. He offers an incredible service that will save. A lot of people have taken advantage of this. He will save you money. He'll come out to your house, cut the cable off, set you up with less expensive internet service with a streaming service that includes all the local and national channels. You'll still get to see all of the Philadelphia pro games. And let's say you have a second home, wherever it may be, Jason can set it up for you. Only one monthly TV bill for both houses. Same price. For more information and to save yourself lots of money, call Jason today at 215-801-5858. That's 215-801-5858. All right. Now I want to welcome our guest. And I mentioned earlier before she came on, I've heard the word pioneer. Everybody hears the word pioneer. That doesn't mean you're old. That means you're older. That means you've had a lot of great experience. Andrea Kremer has done a lot in this business. I've known her for years, and she's done a great job. So there's so many accolades. There's so many accolades. It's just, besides being the first female correspondent for ESPN, and it was a hard business to break into at that time. She called games for Amazon Prime, the first women in the booth for a football game. She's worked for CBS Sports, the NFL Network, and I loved her pieces on HBO Real Sports. And I believe we have Andrea there. Is Andrea there? Is she there? There you are. Good to see you. Great to see you.
Hello, Howard.
You know what? It's, you look back, I look back at some time.
Okay, I'm taking over the show already. So I'm going to start off by ruining your reputation. Pay attention, folks. The people who have to pay attention to what I have to say, pay attention here. Okay. So everybody knows Howard. He's this cantankerous. He's a pain in the butt. He's, you can help me with that. All the negative things that are thrown out there about Howard Eskin. Okay. So I'm about to blow your cover. All right.
Yeah, okay.
This man is one of the reasons that I'm on network television. It's that simple. He mentioned that I was ESPN's first female correspondent. So prior to that, I was the first female. In those days, we had many titles: producer, director, writer, editor for NFL films. And I had an offer from ESPN, and I had to go up there for an audition. I'd never really been in a studio reading a teleprompter before. And Howard sat with me, taught me. I feel like literally and figuratively held my hand to make sure that I knew what I was doing technically, but that I also felt confident. And that was a long time ago. I've never forgotten it. And I'm always grateful. So bottom line, folks, if you never liked me on TV, if you're sick of me after all these years, now you know who to blame.
It's funny you say that. I had Joe Banner on, I guess a couple of shows ago. And you probably don't know this. Joe was a sports reporter at WCAU Radio in Philadelphia, 1210.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He was there for 3 weeks before I worked with him for 3 weeks. He went back up to the Boston area, New England area, to start a business. And I replaced him at WCAU, then WCAU, it's now WPHT. Mm-hmm. And he said, people blame me for you. It's crazy, but it's just, and I'll tell you this, Andrea, and I learned, and I think I may have said it to you, and I got a doctorate last year at Goldie Beacom College in Wilmington, and I was the commencement speaker, and I tried to impress upon the kids, if you work hard, there's always somebody there that sees that and will help you. And that somebody for me was Jim O'Brien, who you remember in the mm-hmm. Philadelphia area, the best television personality in Philadelphia history. It's not even close. And unfortunately, he died in a parachuting accident. But he was so important to me. I spun records for him. He pushed me into television. He was so important, and he always helped me. He was on Channel 6. I was on Channel 3. Mm-hmm. And he would give me tips every once in a while because we weren't on at the same time. But people will help you if they see you work hard. And I always saw that You really wanted to achieve. You're smarter than I am. You came out of Penn, so I won't hold that against you. So,
And
but
a proud lifer of Friends Select, kindergarten through 12th grade. I'm a lifer at Friends Select. Very proud of my FSS connection, my Center City connection. For me, by the way, that person who I emulated in terms of hard work was Steve Sable.
who was great, terrific guy.
And I remember I'm a young producer, and it was a Saturday night. It's about 10 o'clock at night, and I'm at NFL Films, and I'm up in the vault. And it was literally a vault where they kept all the film cams.
Mhm.
And I'm up on a ladder at, sort of teetering, probably looking for the 1960 championship game. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I just don't want to fall and be found dead Monday morning in the vault. But Saturday night at 10 p.m., there was only one other light on at NFL Films, and it was down the hall in Steve's office. And that taught me a lesson, which I've always carried with me, one of many from Steve, and that is never ask the people that work with you or for you to do something that you're not willing to do yourself.
Which is a great point.
And that was something that resonated for me very strongly. And it's something that that today, working with a producer, whoever it is, it's the same thing. And it was just one of many wonderful lessons that I took from Steve.
And for people that don't know who Steve Sable is, shame on you. But he and his dad are NFL Films. Now, the NFL has taken over NFL Films, and I get all that. The building still exists over in New Jersey. But Steve was NFL. He was so brilliant, so creative. And I became friends with Steve, and he was always very nice to me. And I know what you mean. He was a terrific guy, but he was NFL Films without Steve Sable and his father, Ed. But Steve kind of took the rope and took the horses and just rode with it. But without Steve Sable, NFL Films would not be what they are today.
Well, you could argue the NFL wouldn't be what it is today, not even just films.
That's exactly right.
Absolutely, the NFL. And he knew what they were. He knew that it was basically a propaganda machine, but he was artistic, he was creative. And for those who don't know, he passed away from brain cancer, which was tragic. And he is sorely missed. But literally, I've been over at Films, several times, and it sounds sort of cliche to say, but his spirit still does. It completely dominates. I mean, obviously, the walls are covered with the artwork that he created and his Hall of Fame jersey is hanging there, and just his influence is very, very profound. And there's still the sentiment amongst a number of producers. What would Steve do? And another thing, you're talking about storytelling and real sports, and even when I was at NBC and doing stories and Olympics and Sunday Night Football for them, again, it resonates for me. Steve always said, I'd rather you take a risk and fail than not take a risk and be boring. And again, I think you can say that on a number of levels, not just in terms of telling stories, but Steve always just wanted you to think outside the box, wanted to push the limits. And if you did something and it didn't work, but you took the risk and it was worth it, then that was good in his book.
You know what? There's no reward without risk. And you got to take, I remember when I did some different things when I was doing TV sports, I was a little nervous when I'm going to try something different. And if it didn't work, it didn't work. But most of them, 99% of them worked, and it was personality. It was different. It's not like that sportscast of today where it's just a couple of highlights. It's awful. It's a shame that that's what television sports has turned into, and the business has kind of turned into that. But you can give me all the credit you want, but without you having the initiatives to do what you do, I was only there to try to, and I've done this with players, to kind of help in what I went to a coach, and she was so dynamic, Lillian Wilder. She scared the living daylights out of me, but there's things that I'll never forget to this day. And I just try to pass it on to people. And you did it yourself. You could say what you want about me. You did it yourself, and don't ever think that you didn't. Now, you're in 5 Hall of Fames, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, all these things, and NFL Network, CBS Sports. But I'm telling you, I loved your pieces on Real Sports, and it's sad that show's still not on the air with Bryant Gumbel. It's just, that's what I wanted to watch. It's just not these little 30-second sound bites and this, 51-second piece on the air. That's nonsense. They were really good. But here's the question, the question I have for you. Now I'm going to ask you the question and put it on you. As a woman, the business was hard. There was probably a lot of jealousy. And I know to this day, there's still some jealousy that exists at different levels, whether it's writers, whether it's broadcasters. How difficult was it for you? And was there something that you can think of that was probably the most difficult thing to overcome as a woman?
Well, I will tell you a funny story, because you and I were chatting recently, and Mike Quick came up. The name Mike Quick came up. So I am at my first job in sports, which I was the sports editor of the largest weekly newspaper in Pennsylvania, the now defunct Mainline Chronicle from Ardmore, Pennsylvania. And I was doing a profile on Mike as he was getting ready to go to his first Pro Bowl. So the season was over. It's Monday after the season, and the guys are cleaning out their lockers, and Mike's getting ready to go out to Hawaii. Well, in those days, back in another century, but back in those days, women were not allowed in the locker room on non-game days. But I got special dispensation to go into the locker room to interview Mike. So I go in there, and I've got my little recorder, and we're sitting in sort of adjacent lockers. We're sitting there, and I hadn't even started to roll my recorder yet. We're just talking ball. And he stops and he looks at me and he goes, "You really know what you're talking about?" And I kind of go like, duh, yeah, what do you think I'm doing here? But we have laughed about that over the years. And I told that story when I got inducted into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. And Mike's in the audience like, "That's true. That's what happened. She's right." But in those days, Howard, when things like that happened, when people were, and I don't think Mike was testing me in any way. I think that there weren't a lot of women who were conversant in sports just generally.
Right.
And I think what I did, I think my best survival tactic was very simply to kind of put the blinders on, because what I learned is that there's nothing that I can say. There's nothing. It's all about your work. It's all about the product that you put out there. And I remember a big test that I had. It was early in my tenure at ESPN, and I was interviewing Bobby Knight. And we were doing a retrospective on his undefeated team.
Okay.
Now, I was in school when that happened, right? I wasn't following sports.
Was that in 77? Was that the 77 team?
76. I believe it was 76.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
right.
I studied everything. I knew every lineup. I knew the game scores. I knew everything that I possibly could, because I knew he was going to test me. So early on in the interview, I ask him a question, and he answers back with a question. And I just gave him that answer. And everything changed then. Everything changed, because he knew that I was prepared. I knew what I was talking about. And then everything proceeded from there, which is why I tell young people that preparation is your armor. If you're prepared, you can go forward on anything. But that was another time that I got tested. And then, and much to your chagrin, I will not name the athlete, but I know, don't you hate when people, we hate when people
You're like a coach now. You're like a coach. I'm not going to say.
But I think you'll appreciate the story. Okay. So it was baseball. And we were doing the interview, and they asked us to do it before batting practice. So we're set up, outside the dugout. All I'll tell you is it was in Chicago. That's all I'm going to tell you. Okay. So we're lined up. We're set up outside the dugout, and then the PR director comes over and goes, "Hey, you know what? Things have changed. We're now going to do the interview after BP." Because he's running a little late. He was shooting a commercial. So I said, okay, fine. We're used to hurrying up and wait. You know what that's all about.
Yeah.
So comes out, takes his cuts, goes through batting practice, walks over. And just while they're miking him up, I'm just sort of making a little, and he and I know each other. We're making a little small talk. And I go, oh, what was the commercial for? And he looks at me and he goes, Tampax tampons. And I go, just right off the top of my head. It's like one of that moment when you want to say the right thing and it came right out. I go, oh, really? Did you get any samples? So, he, sort of gave me that touche look. And then we did the interview and it was fine. I got everything we needed for the story. And then, I thank him. We shake hands and he walks away and I couldn't help myself. As he's walking towards the dugout with the whole team there, I just yelled out, hey, so-and-so, you sure you don't have any tampons on you? And I couldn't help myself. Like, you know what, dude, if you're going to be an asshole, I can fight right back. I got to stand up for myself a little bit. So, there were situations like that occurred. But again, I will say no time that I felt that I was threatened, because that's always the line I tell young people. You got to have a thick skin. Everybody's going to get yelled at or tested or whatever. But the line you never want to cross is feeling unsafe. And I luckily, over my 40 years in the business, I've never felt that way.
Well, I'll tell you something, and I was there. And first of all, preparation is important. That's why I would go to every game and the news conferences. It's like, what am I doing? And then I realized after I did it, that's why players respected me, coaches respected me. They may not have liked what I had to say, but they respected me and were prepared. But I'm in a locker room one time, and I'm not going to even tell you which sport, so I'm going to play that game too. And there was a female writer for a local newspaper in Philadelphia, and she was covering that sport. And a player stood there and did the interview with no towel on, nothing on, and just stood there trying, I guess, to intimidate her. That player later was an executive of a sports franchise, but he was a good guy and all that, but he was trying to intimidate her.
Right.
And she just went through in the questions and that's what it was.
Yeah. I actually kind of had a bit of a personal rule that I would not interview a naked man in the locker room, because I felt if he didn't have the respect for me or the respect for himself to wear something, I don't need to talk to you. And I'm sorry, like, kudos to that woman for doing that. But there's no way in the world you're going to tell me that anybody in the world is going to give a great interview if they're buck naked in front of particularly somebody from the opposite sex. It's just not going to happen. So I think that's, shame on that person, because it's just not that hard. It's just not that hard to put something on, All
right. In the business, okay, players test you. How many of the media people, because there still exists a little bit of jealousy because media people are intimidated when a woman comes by. Now, some of them,
really?
And I'm going to be honest. Not all the women are as qualified as some of the guys. Okay. I don't want to get into specifics, but because they're a woman, they may have gotten the job. But when you're a writer, you got to be it's not like you're on television. And they were, I guess, I don't know if it was jealous or intimidated. Did you ever find it from a media standpoint of other media people that they were either jealous of you, or you could tell that they really weren't comfortable with having you around?
No. So I mentioned that I'm at the Mainline Chronicle. So the first away assignment I ever had was the USFL championship game between the Philadelphia Stars and the Arizona Wranglers. It was in Tampa, 1982. Do you remember that? Were you there? Did you?
Yeah, I covered the Stars. Yes.
Okay. So I go down to Tampa. I've never filed a story remotely. Okay. Bill Lyon, Ron Reed, these old kind of curmudgeonly guys that you think, they couldn't have been more helpful. They made sure that I knew how to plug in. They knew, the modem, they made sure that I knew where to go. I just didn't encounter that, Howard. I just didn't. And I'd like to think, again, to go back to what you said initially, that they just saw how I was working. They saw how I was comporting myself. They saw how I was dressed, that I was there to do a job just like they were. And they were just helpful. They were just being helpful. And I have had tremendous male mentors. And in fact, when I got to tell you, when the whole Me Too movement came out, which I think is vital to women in any industry, in any business, the one concern I had is that I hope it didn't prevent men from still being mentors to young women. Because until we get more women in positions where they themselves can be the mentor, it's got to be the men. And over the course of my career, starting at NFL Films, when I was taught how to make films, like physically taught how to cut
Right.
and things of that nature, to fast forward all the coaches I've ever just sat and watched film with over the years, I feel like I've always been treated respectfully. And I'm sure there were times that, maybe people said stuff behind my back or whatever. There's nothing I can do about that, because again, it's the same thing. All I can control is my work product and the way that I approach my job.
Okay. What were the toughest things in the industry? Okay. You were, and I was a sideline reporter. You were a sideline reporter. You did the broadcast of a football game was it Hannah Storm that you were?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we didn't, but we did 5 years. Wasn't one game. We were the first all-female booth. I was the first full-time female NFL game analyst. And we did it for 5 years on Amazon Thursday Night Football. So that was a really big deal. But even that again. So the night before our first broadcast, I mean, am I allowed to curse?
Sure. It's a podcast.
Okay, it's a podcast. Well,
You can even, I never use the F word, and I understand.
I'll try not to.
But you can say it if you want. Somebody said that. I don't know. It might have been Dick Vermeil. I don't even know. Who knows? But I don't care. It doesn't matter.
So before the first game, needless to say, it was stressful beyond belief. Like, I feel like I've worked really hard in my career. It was nothing compared to Thursday night. It was just nothing. So night before the game, my phone rings and I look at the caller ID and I go, "Hello, Coach." And it's John Madden. And Coach says, Coach and I worked together for many years on Sunday Night Football on NBC. So he goes, why didn't you call me? Why did I know about this? This is amazing that you're doing this. I'm so proud of you. Da 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 da. How are you feeling? And I go, Coach, I'm pretty scared shitless.
Yeah, right.
And he says to me, and this just resonated when John Madden says this to you, it's like that commercial, like, yeah, when you listen. John Madden said to me, "Don't feel like you have to cram for the test. You've been preparing for this your whole career."
Yeah, which is an interesting point. You're right. You just be yourself.
Yeah, it just tamped down my anxiety level, but at least it was going down, so that's a good thing. But it was again, I feel that I had a lot of support from people, and a lot of that was from male colleagues.
It's just got to be real and natural is one of the things that Lillian Wilder told me. Just be yourself. Chris Sims, when I had him on, said, when he got into it, I can't be somebody else. I just got to be myself. But
Right.
It's really interesting when athletes start out, and you obviously, you were a reporter, you were a sports person, but Mark Sanchez, when he first started to do it, and Mark and I have stayed in touch. He's a great guy. He gets killed for the butt fumble and all that kind of stuff. But he is a great guy. Actually, he was in one of the classes of one of my kids at USC. And my son told me he was never in class, but he was the quarterback of the team, so he didn't have to be in class. So anyway, I said, I saw that interview with, I forget who it was, and it was before the game we were talking. I saw that interview. He says, I was really nervous. I said, what were you nervous about? He said, it was an interview. I said, no. Mark, this is the way you got to treat it. You're a football player. Whoever you're talking to is in football, whether it's a player or a coach. It's a conversation. It's not an interview. Just talk to them like, like you're just shooting the shit. That's the way you got to talk to them. Just be yourself. He says, it's kind of interesting. And I've checked with him after that when he's done interviews, and he became more comfortable because he did an interview for the pregame show, I guess a few times. And that's all you got to be. And when John Madden said what he said to you, that's the way it is. You
Right.
just, fall into when I do a show or when I do something, I'm not thinking about anything else except trying to have fun. Sometimes it's work. Sometimes the questions are tough. And sometimes there's a lot of people that are afraid to ask questions. And I was never afraid. It wasn't easy at first.
No result.
I'll never forget the question. You're a woman, but you understand because we're friends. Gabe Kapler. Do you remember the story that was out that at the blog he wrote that he used coconut oil?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I won't get explicit, but
it's a podcast, Howard.
Okay. He used coconut oil to satisfy himself and masturbate. All right. So it's terrible. But, if it was a guy, I wouldn't have any problems. But, we're on the same team. So at the news conference that he was introduced, it was the elephant in the room. And I waited. And he used to write blogs. I said, Gabe, can you explain to me what you were thinking when you wrote the blog about the coconut oil? He says, I prefer not to talk about it. And John Middleton, the owner of the Phillies, says, why did you have to ask that question? I says, you see all these people in this room? They all wanted to ask that question, but they didn't have the guts to ask that question. So I'm telling you, what are you doing? I mean, why would you write a blog like that? He was a baseball player. Then he wrote blogs and then whatever. I got along with Gabe. But, that's just that was a tough question for me to ask. But there's other questions.
But I've always felt, look, for 12 years, I taught grad school, and it was a class that I created, one of the only classes, if not the only class in the country, solely devoted to interviewing for journalism. It was the art of the interview. And one of the things that I would always say is that I believe that you really can ask anything if it's asked in the appropriate way.
Correct.
So if you had said like, hey, Gabe, like, what's up with that coconut oil, dude? You know what I mean? Like you're trying to but if you just asked it straight, you wrote a blog about this. So of course, I'm not the PR person for that team, or the owner of the team, but yeah, I just think that you can ask those things. And look, we don't need to get into a debate about journalism these days, but hard questions need to be asked. And again, I think if they're asked in the appropriate way, that's what our job is. Our job is not to lob softballs at you. Our job is to capture reality and ask the questions a lot of times. And this is something else I would always tell my students, and you just sort of alluded to it. What does the audience want to hear? Okay.
Exactly.
So look, I did all of Michael Jordan's championships, and every year I would always sit down with Jordan. We'd have a long form interview for what was then at ESPN, something that was really the highest of real estate, the Sunday night conversation on the Sunday Night Sports Center.
Right.
And every year it's sort of like I faced this conundrum of, what do you ask arguably the most interviewed athlete on the planet? And sometimes I would talk to my friends and I would just say, what do you want to hear from Michael Jordan? What do you want to know? Because it's not, an interview isn't supposed to be how smart can I look, or how much do I know? It's what can I bring out of my subject, and what can I share with the audience that they didn't know and that they might really be genuinely curious to know. And to me, genuine curiosity, it is that you can't have enough of it. And if you approach things that way, I think that you get a great interview, you get a great story, you get a great podcast.
It's really important, because the questions that I want to know, or the answers I want to know from the question, are what the public wants to know.
Right.
And you can't be afraid. I don't want to hear, a baseball player, hey, how about the way he pitched? I mean, who cares? We saw he pitched 6 shutout innings. Oh, great. They're looking for their sound bites and they're looking for their quotes in their stories, and nobody reads a newspaper anymore anyway. But it's just so unbelievable. It's like boring. I want to know, like, wait a minute, there's something that happened here. You read the newspaper?
I do.
Oh my gosh.
I read newspapers. I read everything online. I
read stuff online, but whatever. It's just, you want to, there's a question. I remember, I've gotten skewered for some of the things that I've asked. I remember it was Doug Peterson's, I think it was his second year, and they played Cincinnati. And I've mentioned this before. They played Cincinnati and they got smoked. And you could tell the team just quit. I mean, Cincinnati scored a touchdown on the 5-yard line and nobody touched the player as he ran in. So earlier in the news conference, somebody asked Doug Peterson about, how tough the team played. And he just kind of, I think they all played hard and they did. It just, and then I couldn't take it anymore. So towards the end of the news conference, I said, Doug, can you honestly tell me that everybody on your team played hard? And he paused. He was usually pretty honest with me because I knew him. I stayed in touch with him when he left here as a quarterback and went whatever. So he said, nope, I don't think everybody played hard. I think I might have said quit. Nobody wants to use the word quit, and he didn't. And then I got skewered by people. And why did you have to ask that question? By people in the organization? And they knew it was tough for Doug, but players came up to me afterwards and said, I'm glad you asked that question because I'm playing my ass off and some of these guys aren't playing hard. And John Lynch, who was working for Fox at the time, when I was doing the pregame show for Fox 29, he was my guest. And before Guy comes on, I asked him, hey, how was the production meeting with the coaches? He says, you know what? First thing he brought up, Doug Peterson was so happy you asked that question. I said, really? Mm-hmm. He says, yep. He wanted to get it out there, and he needed somebody to really ask the question. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, and that just said, I did the right thing. I mean, and that's what you got to do. Now, when you think about it, you brought up a couple of moments with people. Are there news conferences or are there other situations that are really memorable for you in your career? With players or with news conferences or with coaches? Well,
I think that I feel like probably the biggest story that I probably ever did for real sports in my 17 years there was on sexual assault in Bikram yoga. And it was one of the more memorable pieces and interviews really in the history of the show. That's not hyperbole. That would be, straight from the executive producer and things of that nature. And that was a really difficult interview for every imaginable reason. I mean, anytime you're talking about somebody that is alleged to have committed a crime, especially of that nature, that's very, very difficult. So, there have been challenging interviews like that. But again, boy, there's certain things you just have to ask. And in a situation like that, the delivery and the way that you interact with your subject is really important. Because if I had attacked him, or if I'd gotten really, really super aggressive with him, then that would not have been good. But instead, and I hate to use this expression, but I say it all the time. If someone's about to hang themselves, just keep passing them the rope. And that's what he was doing. And so for me, just kind of sit back, clarify what he was saying. He was doubling down. The most amazing thing is he was saying that this is Bikram Chowdhury, who was the founder and creator of Bikram Yoga. And when we're discussing this idea of if he sexually assaulted anybody, he says, I don't need to sexually assault women women pay $1 million for one drop of my sperm. And I just sat there.
Oh my God.
And then he repeated it as though I wasn't going, as if I didn't understand it. So at that point, it's like, all right, come on, it's just gonna be that kind of interview. And it was insane. It was, that was one of the craziest interviews that I have ever.
Who was that, Andrea?
Bikram Chowdhury. He's the founder of Bikram Yoga. It's probably the most, like I said, the most infamous story I ever did for Real Sports. And it comes, that clip in particular comes right up if you Google it. But, look, there's interviews with like that, which are really hard hitting journalism. But then, man, Howard, I've done my share of stories of loss and, just tragedy, the loss of children, the loss of a spouse, whatever it is. And those have to be dealt with a completely different attitude, one of empathy. But again, there are things that you need to ask. So, and let it be cathartic for the people that are sharing this, what and oftentimes is maybe the worst thing that's ever happened to them in their lives. So I feel like I've kind of run the gamut with those types of stories, and I'm really proud of that.
Real Sports, and you bring that up. It was really, really, I love those, really appreciated and love those long pieces. And it just doesn't exist that much in television anymore. It does on CBS Sunday Morning, but it's not sports. It's different things, as we found out with Bill Belichick and his representative or girlfriend, depending on whether you want to read the USC nonsense of a statement they put out. But how much do you miss doing those kinds of pieces?
Oh, please. Yeah. I mean, you can't even, it's not even close. It just isn't, it's just not even close. I think that the cancellation of Real Sports leaves a monumental void, not just in sports journalism, but in journalism generally. Yep. Because there's just nobody else that's willing to do a long form news magazine show. And I will not buy into this idea that, the average viewer or listener has a short attention span. Guess what? If you show them a good story, they're going to pay attention to it.
Yes.
That's
correct.
I believe that wholeheartedly. But listen, one of the biggest things that show accomplished was speaking truth to power. And there was no correspondent that I work with on that show who wasn't willing to do that. And I just, at this point, virtually every network has a partner with a league, and that makes them gun shy in terms of taking anybody on. But even again, just in long form storytelling, as you know, there's a lot of pundits. You've got the bloviators. You've got, I'm sorry, I call them networks of screaming men. And my point is, there's room at the table for everybody.
Wait a minute. Networks of screaming men. I'm trying to think of one person that comes to mind with that situation. You're probably not going to say him, but I am. It's a joke. What goes on now on these network, ESPN or Fox sports shows? Screaming A. Smith, and that was his nickname when one of the people that worked there told him that was his nickname within ESPN. Screaming A. Smith. You don't have to yell to make your point. You can emphasize your point, but you don't have to scream all the time. And that's what unfortunately media has become. But those long form stories on they were interesting. I mean, even if I wasn't into that particular sport,
right?
The work that all the
but I used to hear that
did.
all the time, and we always loved hearing that. I would get people stopping me in airports, and they would go, "I don't really like sports, but I loved your show." So if there was something that was tangentially related to sports, then you would do it. And but then I miss it terribly, and I think that it's really, really, really missed in sports journalism today. And believe me, we have lots of text change that go on because it's always the same thing, whether it's an issue that comes up and we wish that we were looking into it or investigating it, or an interesting character that we come across and you wish you were profiling him or her. It's really, it's really tough. And then the other thing that I really miss are doing updates. So for example, I'm the only person that has ever done a story on the Chiefs punter Matt Araiza, who was wrongfully charged with rape.
Right.
And he was cut by the Buffalo Bills. He was out of football for a year, and then the Chiefs signed him. He went to the Super Bowl last year, and we were the only people that, again, we presented an honest story. We had the lawyer of the woman who was accusing him, but the charges were completely frivolous. And, it would have been great to update his story about how he came through these allegations. But again, that's just another thing that's really missed, which is the ability to update stories that we've done that were really strong when they aired and obviously are worth following up on.
Well, when you do an interview, it's not sound bites, which, the sound bites that are put on television sportscasts now are so useless in most cases. It's just throwing up sound to use up time. But to sit down and do an interview, that's why I've really enjoyed these podcasts, and the podcasts are the future. It's at least it's a better part of the future than radio is. Radio's dying. So these things, and talking to you and talking to other people, it's fun because you can relax, you can have a conversation. And long pieces, you would sit down with people. I'm sure it was so enjoyable. And then you would sit down, and I know you had a time frame. You would sit down with Bryant afterwards and discuss the story, and it was free form. I mean, it was just, you explained what you learned from that story, and people want to hear that. And for instance, I do want to ask you about Belichick, the nonsense that went on CBS Sunday Morning. He's writing a book. He tells the publisher that, I don't want to talk about anything but the book. That's not the way it works, Bill. You want to make money on a book. You want to put a book out there. First of all, he was asked a question about Robert Kraft not being mentioned anywhere in the book. What, he worked 24 years for the guy as his head coach, and he's not mentioned in the book? Well, that's an appropriate question. And for whatever you want to call her, Jordan Hudson, who are you? You were I'm going to say this, and this is probably, I don't care if it's.
Be careful. Be careful.
No, I'm not going to say anything. She was a Division III cheerleader. I mean, give me a break. So now we get to the point. The story came out. The question that was asked is, how did you guys meet? Well, she had mentioned it somewhere on social media. And she said she met when they were 19 years old, sitting next to each other on a plane. Are you going to tell me a 19-year-old sitting there in first class? Do you believe that? When you think about that, how can you believe that story? That's complete, utter nonsense. That's nonsense. And Bill Belichick, or Belichick as I call him, because he cheated in the Super Bowl that the Eagles lost. And Trotter said, I don't know how many Super Bowls he actually won without cheating. So you wonder about all those rings. But the reality, he's such a pathetic guy to allow her. Wait a minute. Don't say anything. We'll deal with it. But that's what does he think? It's all going to be gravy? I'm going on, and I'm going to talk about it after we're done. But what do you think about what happened in that? If that was you, if you were the reporter, what would you have said to her, or if anything?
Well, first of all, there were, Bill is never going to be the easiest or most loquacious interview subject.
Not even close.
But what I, just as a bit of a tangent here, I think what I resent a little bit is he just spent the last friggin' year doing every possible media outlet and show that he could.
Yes, that is correct. You're right. I didn't even think about that.
Nobody talks about that. You had disdain for the media for your entire career. Then you went to work for the media inside the NFL, the Manning cast. You did a podcast, you did a radio. He did every single thing. I think I don't know the exact number, but it was something like 6 different outlets that
Right.
he didn't say no to anything. So you were in the media, and there were times when he did have to ask questions to people as well, right?
Yep.
So kind of the duplicity of that, now that you're back in coaching and you forget that people want to do their jobs as well. So that I must admit that bothers me. I think that Tony did an okay job, but there were times when he made statements, he did not ask questions,
Right.
and you should never do that generally, but 100% you can't do that with Bill,
No.
because you got to be able to ask something very specific. I don't know what the trigger was, that because all that ended up doing was bringing more attention to it, which
It's unbelievable.
almost makes you, if you want to, go into some kind of conspiracy theory, who is this about? Because really it turned out to be, even when, I think the thing that struck me is when Bill issued his press release today through the University of North Carolina SID department, communications department, he called her Jordan, like she's friggin' Madonna, one name.
Oh, geez.
She's now become a brand. So I think it is mind-boggling. I'm sure as do I, people all around the league are talking about it. And here's another thing that I would present to you, Howard. How happy do you think people in the NFL are that they didn't take this on?
Oh, what? I don't think he was going to get it. He only took the North Carolina job, hoping for a year that he gets in that.
I don't think so either. But if he was thinking that he'll go here, rehab his coaching, whatever it is, and then get back in the league after this shit show that we're seeing,
No.
Who wants to take this on?
You know what? I don't know why he can't.
And by the way, excuse me, do you even know the name of the UNC quarterback? Do you know the name of do you know any of the players? I mean, what happened to, this is all he focused on for all these years. Put the focus on the players, on the field, on performance. We haven't heard anything about that. That's what blows my mind.
Let's be honest. He's, hey, listen, if they love each other, that's fine. But it looks pathetic for a guy that's 49 years or 50 years older than the woman. And that's, hey, listen, if that's what you want to do, but to be it, I would be embarrassed. She came, what was it, the NFL Awards event. She
NFL
comes, dressed so inappropriately for that event. It was disgraceful. And if I'm him and say, hey, wait a minute, you can't dress like that. That's not appropriate for this event. She's really just promoting herself, and he's allowing her to do it.
I want to tell you, I have a little bit of a different take on it because I've gone to NFL honors and I've worked NFL honors, but I've been a guest for every year for, I can't even remember how many years. And on that night, women dress the gamut. Okay. They can, there's a lot of skin that could be shown. There's not, so it wasn't so much that what she was wearing was inappropriate. Here's what got me, which again, I thought it was pathetic. He wore all of his rings.
I know.
And then there was an extra one, so she wore it. I mean, really? Really?
It's
wear
so
one
awful.
And, a lot of time, you know how it is. You've been around enough athletes who have multiple championships and, wear one ring and that's okay. But to wear all of them, it was so gaudy. It was just, I don't know. It just seems so beneath him, all of this. It really does.
For a guy that's supposed to be in charge all the time.
I just think it's pathetic. I just do. And the age difference, again, I mean, Howard, this is the world we live in. You get a lot older men who can date a lot younger women, but it's more to me of what you've built your entire career. I mean, the video that we've seen where he's on the practice field And she walks over and she's, wearing not practice friendly attire.
Yes.
And then, she's miking him and she's just looking like she's in charge and they're watching practice and she's got her arm around him. Are you kidding me? Is this, has somebody kidnapped him and replaced him with a mannequin? I mean, what is happening here? I just cannot fathom it. I can't fathom it. And one other thing, because we've already talked too long about it. You have a podcast. Are you sitting in your office?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. You've got a sport jacket on. I don't know if you always wear a sport jacket. Maybe you have a color shirt on. I try to dress. He was wearing a
torn navy sweatshirt.
Sweatshirt. Yeah. Okay. Number one, you work for the University of North Carolina. How about just a little respect for them? I mean, I understand your dad worked there and it's going to be woven into the questions, but just if you're supposed to be his PR person or helping him with PR issues, that's how you encourage him to dress?
It's just, it's awful. And I really can't let you go without, it's congratulations that you're in 5 Hall of Fames. And I know that I'm in 5, but not at the level, not at all the level. We're in the same Hall of Fame, the Philadelphia Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. But you're in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. What was it like? It's got to be mind-boggling. And then you kind of, do you think back to your career, or how much do you think back? It's just, wow, I've really accomplished a lot.
Well, thank you for that. But also you're in the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, right? So we share that too, right?
Yeah.
So I just got inducted into the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame and the National Sports Media Association Hall of Fame. But the Pro Football Hall of Fame was different because I truly never thought I would get in, because due to my work on Real Sports, I've taken on the NFL on a number of issues. Toradol abuse. I did the first story on Toradol. Nobody even heard of Toradol. We do a story on Toradol. 3 months later, the NFL changes its policy. I did a story on marijuana use. Did a story on domestic violence. Did a story on painkiller addiction. I did a story on abuse of cheerleaders. Pay your friggin' cheerleaders. We don't have to do the story. That's what I actually told somebody at the NFL who called me and cast, sort of like, why did you have to do the story? I go, pay your fucking cheerleaders. We don't have to do the story. So I've done a number of these stories, and I never thought that my body of work would just be viewed and I would be inducted for that. And so that was really surreal. But so I'll tell you, I'm on the side of, so Friday night at the Gold Jacket dinner, we give our speech.
Right.
But then at the actual Hall of Fame induction, we are brought on the stage and we're presented along with all the enshrinees. So I'm standing on the side of the stage with David Baker, who was the then executive director, and his assistant. And they're playing the big piece that was like a 5-6 minute piece that was produced on my career. They're playing it on the screen. And, there's thousands of people in the stadium.
Right.
And they get to this one point where they show an excerpt from the Real Sports story I did on marijuana use. And the guy next to me, Dave's assistant, says to me, wow, I don't think we've ever heard talk of marijuana use here. And I couldn't help myself. I just turned to him and I go, I'm in the Hall of Fame now. And I wanted to say, and you can't take me out. But so it was just this really, it was very surreal. I walked out on this, they announced me. I walked out on the stage, and, you look out and all these people are applauding for you and they're standing up for you. But I look on the stage and all the Hall of Famers were giving me a standing ovation. And to me, it felt like I was up there for, 10 minutes. It was probably 10 seconds, but right. It was a very, very, very amazing experience. It just, was.
And I know,
and being,
like I said, I'm not at the level
being only the second woman ever inducted in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And that's, obviously because of how far women have come. I got into this Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame the same year that Dick Vermeil was inducted, and then the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, and the Broadcast Pioneers, which is a local Philadelphia thing. But it's all good. But you just realize, somebody recognized your achievements, and certain Hall of Fames really do recognize your achievements. They're not just putting you in to sell tickets.
Mhm.
So, and that's always been important to me. That what I did, I worked, and you've done the same thing. You've worked a lot of hours. Forget about me. You worked a lot of hours. You've done a lot of things. And the reason you're in there is because you deserve it, not because they're just, we got to get a woman in here. Sometimes you think, well, they got to do this. No, they didn't have to do anything. And that's what's really impressive. And you should really think back. I don't have to tell you what you do. And I think back every once in a while, man, I've really accomplished a lot. And you really have to, or really should, never take that for granted, how much that you've accomplished in your career. And as a woman, to accomplish it when you started,
Right.
and there weren't many women in it. And it's a different level than a lot of other things.
I really appreciate your kind words. At the end of my induction speech for the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame, I said something along the lines of how we always come up on stage for these acceptance speeches and we thank the people that got us there. And of course, they are the reason. They paved
Right.
the way, or they helped you, whatever it was. I said, but I want to end my speech looking forward and talking about the women that I consider to be on my tree, women that, I've helped nurture or mentor or supported, whatever it is. And I named
Right.
about 6 women. And that's really important to me right now. Is the people that you help along the way, the people you're supporting, the people that you're there as a sounding board for them. And, that's really, really important. I still get to, I still do work for the NFL Network, and I've got a show that I've co-hosted on CBS Sports Network. We Need to Talk, the only all-female sports show. And in fact, we have a show next week on Tuesday at 9 p.m. I get to plug it a little bit. And it's really just, it's a great show when we just get to talk sports. I mean, wow, shocking, women talking sports. And we're not yelling. And so it's, I feel, as I'm sure you do, with the longevity, and I'm proud of the longevity, as I know you are in your career as well. Longevity and continuity and consistency.
Okay, which Hall of Fame? I'm going to take the Pro Football Hall of Fame out. Which was the one that either surprised you the most, or you felt what surprised you the most? Which one surprised you the most?
I don't know about surprise. The National Sports Media Association Hall of Fame requires a presenter.
Okay.
And my son presented me.
Oh, that's nice.
And I didn't know what he was going to say in his speech.
And which Hall of Fame was that?
It's the National Sports Media Association Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Because they have a presenter. This year, I think Mike Tirico is being inducted. It's a great event. There's a big educational component. There's a whole weekend that they do.
Mm-hmm.
They have young journalists that come from all over the country. We sit on panels during the day. It's really good. It's a lot of giving back. But so my son is presenting me, and I didn't know what he was going to say, and I'd written out my speech. And Howard, when he walked up on the stage, literally, it's like my mind went blank. All I could see was like this little baby whose little toes I used to nibble on, and now he's on a stage presenting me in a Hall of Fame, and it completely it blew my mind.
Well, that's great.
That was really personally special. And then, and the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame is different because it's all your peers.
Right.
It's all of your peers. And I've worked at a lot of places and they were all represented. They all came. Everybody was there. And, you know, I've got a great picture of myself with all of our Real Sports folks and the NBC folks and the ESPN folks and CBS and Amazon. And, you know, it was just wonderful. But at the end of the day, truthfully, the fact that, you know, your family is there with you because they're the
It's really
constant,
important. Yep.
that's you never, ever, ever want to lose sight of that. Ever.
Okay. Well, you deserve everything that you've accomplished, and that's the most important thing. And uh, you don't get those accomplishments without hard work. And people think they can just kind of, yeah, well, I'll do this. I'll do. No, no, no. Hard work is hard work. There's no replacement for hard work. Responsible, work hard, and the kids are always going to get a job. And they might not get the one they want at the beginning, but they're going to get a job. So
Right.
that's really important. But I really appreciate, it's always fun talking to you. And you'll share when we talk after this, the player in Chicago. And I'll share.
Are you going to share the team? Are you going to share the team?
Yeah, I'm going to share the team, and the reporter was there. The female reporter was there, was standing in front of the naked player.
Except how do I know that I can trust you that you're not going to come on after I get off and say, oh, and the player that Andrea Kremer was talking about was?
No. No, I would never do that. Hey, that's why I got so much information that I got because players and coaches could trust me, and I wouldn't. When it's off the record, it's off the record. So, correct. But it's great. Andrea Kremer, who you have accomplished so much, 5 Hall of Fames, but that's not even the tip of the iceberg.
And a Philly girl.
Yeah, that's all right. And it's just, you know what? I don't know how we met. But I think I maybe knew your parents before I knew you.
I think you knew my dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. And it's just, you did this by yourself, and never forget that. Never forget that. Okay.
Thank you. I'm so glad that I could come on, and it's great to see you. And I wish you tons of luck in this endeavor. And I have absolutely no doubt that you're going to thrive, and it's going to just be one more exciting chapter in your tremendous career.
All right. Hey, thanks so much. We will talk. Thanks, Andrea. Take care. Right. Andrea Kremer. My pleasure. All right. My pleasure. Fascinating. I didn't think that I would go that long, but there's so many interesting things. Usually when you find good, guests like that have a lot, they share a lot, and it's really kind of cool. But there's something, I'm not done with Bill Belichick. Trust me, I am not done with Bill Belichick. But before we do that, I want to tell you the presenting sponsor of this tremendous show, the Howard Eskin Show, is Jeff Stillwell Financial Advisors. You got wealth that you want to invest? This is the guy. I'm telling you, Jeff's the guy. And as soon as you talk to him, you will understand and you will relate to him. Get in touch with him, 732-343-0813. And I'm going to give away a pair of Oakley sunglasses. But before we do that, I want to do some other things before I come up with the question. And I want to talk about our other fine partners in the Howard Eskin Show. And that would be Cut the Cord with Jason. And let me tell you about Jason first before we get to Piazza and Audi of Westchester. Jason offers an incredible service. You're going to save money. Who doesn't want to save money? He'll cut your cable off, set you up with less expensive internet service. You're going to cut the cord, and you'll have streaming services that include local and national channels. You'll get all the Philly pro games. And if you have a second home or somebody else you want to hook it up, it's the same price for both. Both houses, the same price. For more information and to save yourself lots of money, call Jason at 215-801-5858. That's 215-801-5858. Now, you want a car. You want an automobile. No tariffs. And a great selection. And there's more cars are on the way for Audi of Westchester. Luxury. I've been driving an Audi. I'm going to get another one this month or next month. It's actually not May yet when we're doing this show live. The all-new state-of-the-art facility, great equipment, great people, fun. You'll enjoy it. Audi of Westchester, and they're part of the Mainline Automotive Group, so you'll have access to the largest selection of new and Audi pre-owned vehicles, and that's in the tri-state area. Stop by Audi Westchester, located 1421 Wilmington Pike, or check them out on the internet. Audi, their website, AudiWestchester.com. That's AudiWestchester.com. And if you want to get a pool, see, now it's getting to warm weather and people have waited and you procrastinated. Stop procrastinating. Stop it. Piazza Property Pros will bring their experts to you, whether it's an in-ground pool, whether it's renovation, whether it's landscaping, whatever it is. Piazza Property Pros have you covered. 25 years of experience. They know what the hell they're doing. They really do. And they'll turn whatever vision you have into a reality. Remember, it's their people. That's what's important. They don't subcontract to any people with all that experience. Their people, whether it's landscaping, whether it's pool maintenance, you can trust Piazza Property Pros to deliver exceptional results on time within your budget. Here's the number to call, 610-566-2608. That's, you can schedule a free consultation, 610-566-2608, or check them out, piazzaoutdoor.com to learn more. Don't wait, Piazza Property Pros. All right, I want to close off the Howard Eskin Show. I mean, it is a disgrace. The Bill Belichick situation is a disgrace. I'm going to read this statement that USC put out, which is a complete joke. We can do this, right? Right? Okay. Talking to my, yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, because we're going to give away sunglasses. Well, I'm going to give away. Yeah, I'm going to give away the sunglasses, which I will. And I have a question. All right. Here is the statement, the quote from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, head coach Bill Belichick. And I'm sure he didn't write it, but whatever. I agreed to speak with CBS Sunday Morning to promote my new book, The Art of Winning, Lessons from My Life in Football. Prior to the interview, and you apologize for me looking down, I'm reading this. Prior to this interview, I clearly communicated with my publicist at Simon & Schuster. Later, he says that his girlfriend or whatever is his publicist, but whatever. You know, I shouldn't interject. All right. My publicist at Simon & Schuster that any promotional interviews that I participate in would agree to focus solely on the contents of the book. Unfortunately, that expectation was not honored during the interview. I was surprised when unrelated topics were introduced, and I repeatedly expressed to the reporter, Tony Dokopil, I think is the way you pronounce his name, and the producers that I preferred to keep the conversation centered on the book, and this occurred several times. Jordan, as he says in the release, Jordan, with whom I share both personal and professional relationship. All of a sudden, she's his publicist. What the hell are you talking about? Stepped in to reiterate that point to help refocus the discussion. She was not deflecting any specific question. Oh, she wasn't, or topic, but simply doing her. She was simply doing her job with the to ensure the interview stayed on track. Some of the clips made it appear as though we were avoiding the question of how we met, but we have been open about the fact that Jordan and I met on a flight to Palm Beach in 2021. What was she doing in first? How could she afford first class? Well, that's nonsense too. But all right, I can't help but make comments here. The final 8-minute segment does not reflect the productive 35-minute conversation we had, which covered a wide range of topics related to my career. Instead, it presents selectively edited clips. What the hell do you think goes on in these interviews, Bill, you moron? And stills from just a few minutes of the interview to suggest a false narrative that Jordan was attempting to control the conversation, which is simply not true. It simply is true. All right. So here's the pathetic part of this whole thing. Bill Belichick is supposed to be a guy in control. Well, hey, listen, I don't have a problem with age differences with people that go out with one another, but I think Bill Belichick is enamored with going out with a 24-year-old. That's just my opinion. I think he's enamored because he's got a former cheerleader, Division III, as it were, Jordan Hudson, but she dressed. Let me show you some pictures here. And he knows what has to come up in the interview. This is Belichick with Jordan Hudson. And she posts all this stuff on social media. Joe, do we have the pictures? All right, this is on a beach. Now, if Belichick is going to tell you he doesn't know these pictures are shot, she's having the pictures shot. What does he think's going to happen when these pictures get out there? Nobody's going to talk about it. People have to ask questions. And when she's 24 years old, he's 74 years old, or 73, 74, whatever it is. You don't ask the question. How did you meet? It was an innocent question. He's on the beach. He's on the beach. And she's posting this stuff on Instagram. He knows how many pencils were in the office at the football. It's a joke. And he allows himself to look like a fool, to look like a pathetic old man. And, age is what you make it. Don't act old if you are older. And this was so inappropriate at the Honors Awards, the NFL Honors Awards before the Super Bowl. You don't dress like that for an event like that. You can have a really expensive and beautiful dress, which apparently she didn't pay for anyway. But whatever the case, this is embarrassing. This release, this statement makes it even worse. It makes it even worse. What do you mean they can't ask anything? They can ask, but that's what interviews are for. You want to promote your book, then don't write the damn book. But these Instagram pages, he just looks like a sad old man. Hey, listen, we all get older. I'm not old, I'm older. But he's acting like this is like, oh, I want to show off this. I'll use the phrase trophy. And he wants to show off this trophy. It's embarrassing, Bill. It is totally, absolutely embarrassing. You look like a pathetic guy. Just allowing her to do that. That's what they do those interviews for. You're not going to ask that. That's not even a tough question. How did you meet? I mean, how did you meet? Is that a tough question? It is absolutely disgraceful and pathetic. It is pathetic and disgraceful. I just can't. And then the fact that I don't think he's one of the top 5 coaches in football, but that's another story for another time. And he's not getting a job back in the NFL. I mean, do you think his players at North Carolina aren't laughing at him? They're laughing at you, Bill. They're laughing at you. You're a pathetic guy. It's just, just do the interview. Just answer the questions. And when he doesn't answer the question about Robert Kraft, why isn't he not in the book? Well, it's about my career. Well, your career was the owner that had you work for, what was it, 24 years? You got to be kidding me. All right. We're going to give away another pair of Oakley sunglasses. Now, hopefully you listened to the conversation with Andrea Kremer, and I'm going to do this at the end of most of the shows. I'll come up with a question, and you can email your answer. We had a lot of emails last week, and we got a winner for the last show. Email your answer through the contact page at howardeskin.com. The winner will be randomly chosen from all the correct entries. Emails must be received by, I guess it's kind of Friday night. What is Friday AM? But it's got to be before the Saturday show. The winner of the Oakley sunglasses will be announced on the Howard Eskin Show Saturday, May 3rd at 8 a.m. Here's the question. Andrea Kremer received, she's been inducted into many Hall of Fames. And I congratulate her for that. The National Sports Media Hall of Fame was one of the Hall of Fame she was inducted to. Who was her presenter? Who was her presenter at the National Sports Media Hall of Fame? That's your question. Come up with the correct answer, and we will select a winner at random to win those pair of Oakley sunglasses. All right, I'm going to leave you with this tonight. It's an unbelievable play in baseball. And how did he do it? How did he do it? Varsho is the player's name for Toronto. It's a great catch, and I just want to close out the show with this.
High fly ball center field. Varsho's back. He falls down. Oh, my goodness. Did he just do that?
Are you kidding me?
He made the catch after falling down behind his back. Wow.
Let's watch this. first, I thought this was getting out of the ballpark. Loses his footing. How does he keep his eye on that ball?
Wow. Wow. Can you ever see Johan Rojas making a catch like that? No, he's a center fielder for the Phillies. But thanks so much for joining us. Thanks to Andrea Kremer. Thanks to everybody that's a part of these shows, the Howard Eskin Show, and on all the social media platforms. And yeah, it just, there's a lot of comments here, and I wanted to read some of them. People congratulating me, congratulating Andrea. It's just disappointed I'm not on the radio station. I'm not disappointed anymore because radio is dying. Here, the advertisers get results. They're on the podcast forever on radio stations. If the show is podcast, the commercials go away and they sell new ones. It's not the way it should be. You pay for a spot, it should live forever. And that's what they do. And this is where you get value for your dollar and you get results. And it's so much better than what radio has become today. So thanks again. And we'll see you on Saturday Morning Live. But again, these shows live forever. Thanks for joining us on the Howard Eskin Show.